Boxing ring death. On March 24, 1962, Benny "Kid" Parrott climbed into the ring at Madison Square Garden in New York to defend his welterweight title against Emil Griffith. It was their third fight, each man having won once, and tensions had boiled over after Parrott insulted Griffith at the weigh-in. From the opening bell, punches were exchanged fiercely. By the 12th round, Parrott's arms were heavy and his legs were trembling. Griffith trapped him against the ropes in a neutral corner and unleashed more than 24 rapid punches. Parrott's head snapped violently. His arms dropped, his legs buckled, but the ropes held him upright. The referee finally intervened, but it was too late. Parrott collapsed unconscious. He was carried from the ring on a stretcher and rushed to Roosevelt Hospital. Surgeons operated desperately, but the massive brain hemorrhage was too severe. Benny "Kid" Parrott never regained consciousness. 10 days later, on April 3, 1962, he died. The brutal assault in the ring transformed a display of athletic skill into a scene of horror, shocking everyone present and leaving a permanent scar on the sport of boxing. Bull riding arena death. On July 30th, 1989, Lane Frost entered Cheyenne Frontier Days in Wyoming as one of professional rodeo's brightest stars at just 25 years old. That afternoon, he was assigned a bull named Taking Care of Business, notorious for its size, strength, and unpredictability. Frost adjusted his rope, wrapped his hand in tape, and nodded to fellow cowboys as the gate opened. The bull exploded into the arena, bucking and spinning violently. Frost rode with perfect rhythm, aiming to last the required 8 seconds. The buzzer sounded, and he dismounted, landing safely in the dirt. But the danger was not over. The bull turned back unexpectedly, driving its horn into Frost's back with devastating force. He was lifted off his feet and slammed into the ground, his internal organs torn by the impact. Bullfighters intervened, but Frost lay motionless. Paramedics rushed him to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. Massive internal hemorrhaging caused by the horn ended his life, and the rodeo, a celebration of courage, had claimed one of its brightest stars. Olympic Marathon Heat Death. On July 14, 1912, Portuguese marathon runner Francisco Lázaro lined up in Stockholm for the Olympic Marathon, which would become the deadliest in Olympic history. At 1:45 p.m., temperatures reached 90 degrees Fahrenheit with oppressive humidity. Lázaro had coated his body in a thick layer of beef fat and wax to prevent sunburn, inadvertently trapping sweat and preventing natural cooling. The 26-mile course through the Swedish countryside became a furnace. By halfway, runners were collapsing from heat exhaustion, but Lázaro pressed on, showing early signs of distress. At 18.6 miles, witnesses saw him staggering and confused, sweat trapped beneath the waxy coating. His core temperature rose dangerously. With 5 miles remaining, he collapsed near Södertälje, unconscious and burning with fever. Spectators rushed to his aid as medical personnel transported him to hospital, working frantically to cool his body. Despite their efforts, he never regained consciousness. Lázaro died the next morning from heat stroke and dehydration, becoming the first athlete to die during Olympic competition, a tragic reminder of human limits and the dangers of extreme preparation under brutal conditions. Le Mans Motorsport Disaster. On June 11, 1955, over 250,000 spectators gathered at Circuit de la Sarthe in France for the 24 Hours of Le Mans endurance race. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon. Pierre Levey drove his Mercedes-Benz 300 SLR down the main straight at over 120 miles per hour, the car glinting in the sun. Mike Hawthorne, driving a Jaguar, led the race and approached the pit lane at high speed. His brakes screeched as he turned sharply. At the same time, Lance Macklin, another driver in an Austin Healey, swerved to avoid Hawthorne, cutting directly into Leveg's path. Leveg had no time to react. His Mercedes slammed into Macklin's car, launching into the air like a ramp and flying into the crowd. The magnesium alloy body ignited instantly, erupting in flames. Leveg was killed on impact, thrown from his vehicle. Spectators screamed, as burning wreckage and bodies littered the stands. Emergency crews worked frantically, but the fire spread uncontrollably. The final toll reached 83 dead, including Leve, and more than 120 injured, marking one of the most horrifying disasters in sports history. Olympic luge track death. On February 12, 2010, at the Whistler Sliding Center, offering unique public activities and training programs for bobsleigh, skeleton, and luge, in Vancouver, Canada, 21-year-old Nodar Kumaritashvili prepared for his final practice run before the Vancouver Winter Olympics. Luge is a sport in which athletes lie on their backs atop tiny sleds, steering with subtle body movements while hurtling down icy tracks at speeds exceeding 90 miles per hour. The Whistler track was infamous as the fastest in the world, with 16 harrowing turns, dropping 499 feet over nearly a mile. As Nodar launched from the start, his sled accelerated with terrifying intensity. At turn 16, it wobbled violently, catching an edge. He was catapulted into the air like a human projectile, colliding with a steel support beam with brutal force. His head and chest absorbed the full impact, causing fatal injuries instantly. Rescue crews arrived within moments, but Nodar was beyond saving. The track had claimed a life, leaving a stark reminder of how merciless the sport of luge can be. Cricket match death. On November 25, 2014, Philip Hughes stepped onto the Sydney cricket ground for a routine Sheffield Shield match. The 25-year-old South Australian batsman faced a bouncer from New South Wales bowler Sean Abbott. The delivery rose sharply, striking Hughes on the left side of his neck just below the helmet, where the vertebral artery is dangerously exposed. In an instant, Hughes collapsed, blood surging internally. Teammates rushed forward in shock, realizing this was no ordinary fall. Paramedics administered aid immediately, but the ruptured artery caused uncontrollable internal bleeding and brain swelling. He was transported to St. Vincent's Hospital, where surgeons fought desperately to save him, but the damage was catastrophic. 2 days later, Hughes died, just hours before his 26th birthday. The cricket ground, usually a place of cheers and celebration, became a scene of unimaginable horror, his life extinguished by a split-second misjudgment and a merciless cricket ball. Swiss Alps snowboarding avalanche death. In April 2010, high in the Swiss Alps, 21-year-old Estelle Bale, world champion snowboarder, carved her way down a steep slope as cameras rolled for a filming project. The snow, glistening beneath a cold sky, appeared serene, but it was deceptive. Without warning, an avalanche broke loose. Tons of ice, rock, and snow plummeting at speeds exceeding 80 miles per hour. She had no chance to escape the crushing mass. The avalanche slammed into her with the force of a speeding vehicle, smashing her against boulders and jagged ice. Rescue teams dug frantically, but she was buried deep within the frozen chaos, crushed beyond recognition. Even with safety equipment, the mountain's power was absolute. Seconds of misfortune erased a rising star, her playground transformed into a grave, a stark reminder that nature's fury can overwhelm human skill and bravery in the blink of an eye. College basketball court death. On March 4, 1990, Hank Gathers stepped onto the polished wooden court of Gersten Pavilion in Los Angeles for a West Coast Conference tournament game as Loyola Marymount hosted Portland. The arena buzzed with energy, the crowd roaring, banners waving, and tension hanging thick in the air. At 23, Gathers was one of college basketball's most dominant players, known for his scoring, rebounding, and relentless intensity. The game began, and Loyola Marymount's frenetic style pushed players to their limits, sprinting end to end, full court pressing, never slowing down. Gathers thrived, grabbing rebounds and throwing down thunderous dunks. Early in the first half, he leapt for an alley-oop, slammed it home, and began jogging back on defense. Suddenly, his legs buckled and he collapsed to the floor. Teammates initially thought he was joking, but quickly realized something was wrong as his body went limp. Coaches and medical staff rushed to his side. Paramedics performed CPR before transporting him to Marina del Rey Hospital, where he was pronounced dead from hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, his heart tragically failing mid-game. If you liked this video, don't forget to subscribe for more shocking stories like this, and drop your thoughts or suggestions in the comments below.